right. All you, Jack.
Well, thank you so much. I love that introduction. I should probably leave now while it sounds so great. Right? While I'm on a high, I can't go in. I don't think I could do any better after hearing that. I'm going to try my best.
I sang your praises.
Yes.
I don't know.
I have a lot to deliver now, but I'll try. So I really appreciate, thank you, Christine, for inviting me. And I thought a good format would be to have this Q&A, because I'm sure you all have been on these types of calls where it's just one way, where someone is going on and on and on, and you days off and you feel like I'm not learning anything. So I figured it could almost be rapid fire, if you will, so that if you have specific questions about your job search, salary negotiations, why you're not getting called back, about ghosting, whatever the case may be, I feel comfortable talking about it. Having placed so many people over the years, I'm very familiar with how the process works, what doesn't work, what to do, what not to do. And I'd be happy to share, all that kind of advice. And for what it's worth, in my opinion, I am very optimistic about the future. To me, after coming off of a year and a half or 2 years or 10 years, however long COVID has been, it seems like forever, I think we're entering a new paradigm. We're heading into this new era. And I think this new era is like all possibilities. If you think about it, and I was writing this morning about, we have Bezos, we have Elon Musk, we have Richard Branson going into space, looking to build colonies on Mars. We have every day, if you want to get food, you have Instacart, people deliver food to your home. You don't want to cook, you have DoorDash bringing you something. You don't want to drive, you have Uber. I think what gets lost is that there's so much negativity and doom and gloom, we forget that we're kind of in a really interesting phase. And even if we're in between roles right now, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth. There's a war for talent going on. The economy is doing well. The stock market is hitting all-time highs. Real estate is hitting all-time highs. So I think this sets the stage for someone who's looking for a job to be in a good position to move forward. Now, it might not happen overnight, but I think we're on that trajectory, kind of like a new roaring 20s, like what happened after the Spanish flu in World War I, where all of a sudden you had the Jazz Age, you had the whole Gilded Age, and things were just really euphoric. I think there's a high chance that we could kind of be in that new phase, which for looking for a job would be much better because there are more opportunities. So with that kind of being my overarching kind of thought process, I thought we could jump into it, and then whatever questions you have, we'll start talking about them.
We have quite a few questions, actually, Jack. And I think that this pandemic and just being in job search, we're all exhausted.
Yes.
And there's a lot of emotions that are going with that. So the first question is, we're having a hard time. Jay is writing, I'm having a hard time getting callbacks or interviews because of my age. I'm extremely experienced with strong degrees. How do you diminish or hide your age on your resume? College graduation dates seem to give it away. What do you recommend?
Yeah, so Jay, one thing you do, I think it's standard to have, let's say, the last 10 years of your experience on the resume, so that you don't have to go back 20, 25, 30 years. You could pick a time period where you feel comfortable with, because I say the first 10, but maybe another 5 you had really awesome experiences. So judge which is best. And yeah, there's no reason that you have to put your date of college graduation on it. I would also make sure the format of the resume is kind of up to date a little bit with, there's always trends with resumes. I'm not a resume writer, so I can't really speak to that, but I would maybe make sure whatever you're putting down there seems kind of current, but you have the last 10 years. I think also what happens too, and this is going to be kind of unpopular to say or not politically correct, but I think what happens is this too. In my opinion, I think there's a lot of ageism in the market, but it's not the kind of ageism where it's like, hey, Jack, you're 55 years old, we don't want to hire you because of that. I think it's the connection between not so much the age, but the years experience and how much you're making. And what companies I find out, companies rather pay less. So they'll look for younger people so they can pay them less. And it kind of more of that than the age. So I think when you interview, you have to know that that's a bias that's lurking in their minds. So when you interview, you want to know that they're already thinking you're going to make too much money. You're going to be all these stereotype things. You're going to want to be the boss. You're going to want to tell everyone what to do, especially if they're younger than you. So when you interview, you want to be able, Jay, to also come across as dispelling the myths of that. So you want to come across, you want to make sure the clothing you wear, the eyewear you have, the hairstyle, everything shows that you're current, you're up to date, you know everything that's going on, you're on top of whatever sector you're in, you know what the trends are. And then also that you make sure you're not going to come across as the person who has all the answers, you know everything. You want to come across that, hey, I know that I'm 55 and the hiring manager is 30. Hey, I could learn a lot from you. You know, one of the reasons why I like this job is because I want to be surrounded by people of all ages, a diverse culture, so I can learn and I can grow and I can contribute. So partly, yeah, the resume, but then it's how you present yourself. And then when you go for the interview, to come across in a way that doesn't make people feel, oh boy, this person is going to think they know everything. I'm going to look for someone else.
Jack, quick follow-up. Is it okay to be fairly blunt in your cover letter up front about that? Because I've tested that at times and that didn't work. Can you be too blunt on the table about, I can work, not this blunt, but I'll just add lib. I can work with younger people. I'm not expecting to get paid what I was paid before. Despite my age, I'm very energetic. I'm healthy, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I would work on it. I would work on how you would give that pitch. So for instance, so let's say, Jay, you're the hiring manager. And I'm working for you. I would say, hey Jay, I'm so excited about this role. I really love, and then you cite some of the things you love about the role, and say, hey, I understand I might have more experience than you were looking for, but I don't have an ego. Really, what's important to me is the work, the company, and just contributing and being part of the team. And I find rather than coming in because I have so much experience to tell people what to do, just the opposite. I want to learn. I want to learn from the folks there. And if I can mentor and contribute, I think that'll be great. So you want to kind of prepare it where you make the hiring manager feel comfortable that you're not going to be that know-it-all, because that's kind of the stigma. That's kind of the discriminatory feel about someone who's older. So you want to disabuse them of that right away. Like you just get that right out. So the hiring manager is like, whoa, Jay seems like such a nice guy. Okay. And then they don't even think of age. They think of now you as a nice guy who's a team player, who's going to work well with everybody, who's going to make my life easier. And you just kind of rebranded yourself in a way like, why wouldn't they hire you? You know what I mean? Like, wow, this is like a perfect person. He doesn't have an ego. He's not going to be pushy. He's not going to be like, hey, I've done this for 30 years. Listen to me, guy.
Okay. And last thing is the new resume formats, they almost look Fisher Price like. I mean, compared to the old resumes where it's basically a clean outline. Are you saying this, you recommend this new type of format with the nice fonts and
I'm not a resume guy. So I don't say, I would say this, Jay, it's a little bit of everything. So it'll be the resume, the clothes, and this sounds so shallow, but let's be honest. We have to talk this way because this is reality. I know it sounds shallow and it's not fair. It's not right, but you have to look at everything in its entirety. How do you dress? How do you look? How do you come across? How do you speak? The lingo, because think about it. In the job market now, you have Gen Z, you have Gen X, you have baby boomers, you have the millennials, and everyone speaks a different language. Like my kids are Gen Zs. Their language is different, but I try to learn it in part to like annoy them because then I use their language and they hate that. It drives them crazy. So, but
Me too.
But it's kind of fun to do to see how annoyed they get. But the thing is, so then when you interview, you come across it's like, oh, okay, all right, this person gets it, and once again, then it shows, all right, you're not this older person. You're just all right, cool. You're just like us. This is great.
Okay.
So along those lines, we are dealing with some ageism. What would you suggest, Jack, for somebody that is changing careers? How would they present themselves?
So is this someone age or just changing gears?
Just changing careers.
So see, this is a good time to change careers because, as I mentioned before, we're in this period where things are changing rapidly. If we had this meeting 2 years ago and we talked about remote work, everyone would say, nah, that won't happen. That's ridiculous. And here we are, remote work is a thing. So it shows that things that were traditional and set in stone aren't set in stone anymore. I've spoken to so many people personally and professionally, and after the pandemic, they realize how short life is, how precious it is, and they start reevaluating. Do I want to keep doing the same thing 5, 10, 15 years from now? And a lot of times the answer is no. I want to reinvent myself. I want to pivot. I want to do something else. So this is a very common thing to do. Now, to do it, it may not be easy, but it's doable. So what I would suggest is this. If you want to pivot to another area, you have to see what skills you have that are transferable. Because if you just go and interview and say, hey, I've been a tax accountant for 20 years and now I want to fill in the blank. And they can say, well, why? How? It doesn't make sense. But if you could then put together on the resume and when you interview, how the things you've done will cross over. And not only cross over, how that would be really super helpful for the hiring manager, because those skills are unique, are different, but they cross over and can be successful there. So that's going to be a big part, because you're going to run into resistance, because with big companies, there's an inertia. They have blinders on. They just want you to fill in all, if they have 10 ingredients, you want you to have 12 of them. And there's not an appetite to train and do it and to teach someone new. So it's your job to figure out how you could sell yourself and market yourself to show, hey, even though I've done something different, here's what I need to do. And it'll be a process. Maybe you have to go back to school and take some classwork. Maybe take some certificates. Maybe you might have to take a few steps back in terms of your salary to kind of learn something new. But if that's something that you're passionate about and you want to do it, absolutely. This is a time period you want to move forward and start working on it.
What would you say to somebody, Jack, if they were, they took a little break from the career world, so to speak, to help with their family or a sick loved one, or maybe take care of their health? They had some kind of issue, cancer, that kind of thing, and they're going back into the workplace. How do they represent that gap, even if they've kept up on their licenses and certifications and stuff in the meantime, but don't have a company name behind what they've done?
That's a great question. And this is what's so unfortunate about in our society, is that we all know we went through a pandemic and things happen and bad things happen. You may have had COVID, your family members, unfortunately, maybe you lost loved ones. And for a variety of reasons, you pulled out of the market. About 800,000 working women pulled out of the market in just a few months time period during the pandemic because they couldn't manage, they felt they couldn't both do their job, take care of childcare, especially in places like New York and New Jersey where they closed the schools. So there are real reasons why you are out of the market. However, companies sometimes turn a blind eye and they pretend that the real world doesn't exist. So what you want to do is understand it's not fair. It's just not fair, because they're going to think, well, why? They're going to assume the worst. Well, why? You just couldn't find a job? Why were you laid off and not someone else? What, you can't find it? So you want to at least show that you were doing something during that time period. It could be, maybe you're writing the great American novel. Maybe you were doing volunteer work. Maybe you went back to school. Yes, maybe you're taking care of loved ones who had COVID. But you want to have some sort of narrative that shows that you've been doing something, not just sitting around watching Netflix, because that's kind of the unfortunate impression that a lot of hiring managers will have. So you want to have something that you could say, hey, I did this volunteer work. I went back to school. I had these gig, whatever. I started a business, whatever the case may be, so that you have something to point to. And then I find that this is a really interesting interviewing technique. Oftentimes, if you have kind of that, let's say a gap, it's easy to spend too much time describing it. What you want to do is just be really succinct about it. Hey, Christine, I could appreciate the question. During the pandemic, unfortunately, I was downsized along with 80 million other Americans, and I did X, Y, Z. And I feel by doing that, I've learned a lot, and I've studied, took a certificate program. I've done this, I've done that, and that's why I'm really excited about this role. And I feel not only my past experience, but coupled with the work I've done in that time period during the pandemic, makes me much more of an attractive candidate for this kind of role.
I love that.
You know, so you just segue right back into it. So you don't dwell on the negativity. You take whatever happened, and this applies to anything, whatever negativity, you spit it into a positive. You take what elements are good about it. And then when you kind of give your pitch and you talk to them, you show that as a positive. So then what ends up happening, most people, you know what happens? Like when you interview them and you start going that, they're not going to say, oh, wait, let's go back now to talking about the bad stuff. Because most people are pretty nice, you know, and empathetic for the most part. So they're not, oh, let's keep dwelling on all the bad stuff that happened to you. So the chances are they'll just keep going on with the interview, and the other stuff fades in the background.
The classic timeless question. Can you guess what I'm going to ask you?
No. What?
1 page, 2 page, 8,000 pages. How long should a resume be?
I'd say, as looking through the lens as a recruiter, when I look for a resume, you want to have all the ingredients for the job super easy to read. So when you look at it, you know, studies show us, like, you know, recruiters spend like 10 seconds, 15, 20 seconds on a resume. So you want to have it jump out. Like the first 2 or 3 bullet points, it wants to be like this big flag waving, you know, look at me, look at this, that I have the exact experiences and background for the job. And that's key. And I don't care, 1, 2, 3, 100 pages for the most part. You want to have what you do so clear, so concise, that whoever's reading it goes, oh, wow, Donna is perfect for the job because she does, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Great. Sometimes they don't even have to look any further because they realize she does it. If you have a resume that may be looking the best, looking awesome, it's 1 page or 2 pages, but it's not clear what you do, your responsibilities aren't really set forth, that's not going to help you. So don't worry about the pages, because when you send out a resume now, think about it. It goes on someone's phone, it goes on a computer, and everyone's going to be different. It could be 1 page, but end up being 3 pages on, you know, on your iPhone, or it could be 3 pages on the computer. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would worry about making sure you capture their attention. It's like reading a good book or a good article or what have you. You want to just get caught up in it right away. You want to catch the reader's attention. Same thing with the resume. You want to make sure what's on there immediately captures the attention, because once they capture the attention, they're going to read more. They're curious. They want to learn more about you, and you got them. You know what I mean? Then you kind of reel them in.
Okay. Miguel writes, I'm retired after 33 years in a full-time job. I've had many part-time jobs, but not sure how I should set up my resume. What's the best format to showcase all of that?
You know, I guess the answer is it depends what you're trying to do next. Are you looking for another full-time job? Are you looking for a kind of a gig kind of thing?
Miguel, I'm not really sure. Maybe just Miguel could unmute and give us some more information so that question can be answered.
Yeah, hi, this is Miguel. Right now I've been taking care of my grandchildren, taking them back and forth to school and extracurricular activities, but they're going to be going to full-time school, and I'm about ready to finish a realtor class, plus, you know, get my certification and all that. But I wanted to, you know, just give my employer an idea of what I did for 20 years in the military, and then as a teacher for another 13 years. It's always been for the Air Force, and that you know, has given me a lot of empathy towards socializations basically. And I'm thinking that realtor could be kind of like a step into the right direction. It'll utilize all my skills and experience. What do you think?
I think that's exactly what you want to do. So what you're saying is that after a career in the military, a career as a teacher, you're thinking of going into real estate, which would be kind of something you could do till you kind of, you know, whenever you want to retire. So I would take the lessons you've learned and the skills you've acquired in both areas, and then use that as a way to sell yourself why you would be a great realtor. I would imagine as a teacher, you're used to speaking with people, sharing information, teaching, listening to the students. In the military, you probably learned how to be very regimented, how to be very focused, how to deal with adversity. So you could take those characteristics, that background, and say, I'd be a good real estate agent because as a teacher, I'm very used to speaking with people. I feel comfortable talking with people. That's part of being a real estate agent. In the military, I would have to deal with all sorts of obstacles. And with real estate, in any sales role, you're always having objections. You're always having obstacles, but you have that training to deal with it. And if you were in the Air Force and Armed Forces, I'm sure you dealt with much more dangerous situations than, someone giving you an objection about a house. So I think you could put those experiences to use and just tell your narrative. Does that make sense, Miguel? Do you know?
Of course.
Okay.
By the way, in the military, I was human resources, and I have the experience of working on a base and also with commanders. So I kind of putting all that stuff together. As a teacher, it was in an at-risk place, so I really had to sit down and listen to people, and not necessarily advise them. My advice to them was to figure out what's best for them, because I can't really sit in people's shoes and tell them what to do, because that'll sort of like shift the blame to me. So I'd rather they analyze their problem and come up with a solution that would make sense. And I would basically advise them to go whatever way is best for them and for their families. Anyway, thank you. That was very good. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Miguel and everybody else on the call that might pertain to, the state of New Jersey has a division of veteran services and veteran reps, and they have a lot of connections to different companies in the state that do actively look for veterans to fill their job openings, and they work on your resume and have networking relationships. So I would definitely reach out to your local one-stop. And there's different people for every different one stop, but whatever is next to you or near you is a place that's a resource to help you in your employment.
Thank you, Christine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so Jack, the questions just keep coming in. I hope you're going to be here again all day. I'm not getting callbacks. I paid over $200 to get my resume and cover letter completed and still haven't gotten a callback.
So that's a common thing. And I'm sorry, who, for the person who asked the question,
Betty's iPhone.
Betty's iPhone, can you maybe offer a little color on like what job you're looking for in any other context?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi. I have 17 years experience as a child abuse investigator.
Okay.
What are you looking for, Betty?
Oh, to be honest with you, I don't know, honestly, right now. I know, after 17 years, and like I said, due to COVID, I had to actually take a break due to, some death in the family and trying to be there for my nephews with my sister's passing and everything, taking on 2 additional children on top of my own. I really needed to take a break because that job alone itself is very stressful.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's a very challenging spot you've been in. How are you coping now? How are you doing?
Maintaining. We're maintaining.
Yeah.
Actually, my nephew just graduated from high school.
That's great.
That was a challenge itself, trying to get him through high school because he really didn't have much of an interest in school after the mother's passing. So, but we did get through that. He graduated a couple of weeks ago. But now just trying to refocus everyone, shift everyone's focus, he did trade school. So I was happy with that. And just trying to get everybody back on track for the most part, and me returning back to work.
It's very hard, Betsy, when you go through a traumatic event, and looking for a job is so stressful to begin with. But if you add on levels of other personal things that are happening, it's rough. It's very hard to interview because you carry that with you. You like to feel that you can go into an interview and just shed all that other stuff, and it's hard. And then interviewers kind of pick up on that sometimes, whether it's your circumstance, which was really, it's as bad as it gets, losing a sister. somehow, a couple of things, what I would suggest. One, sometimes you just need some time to process everything that happened before you go back into the job search, so that you kind of get yourself together of what happened and then how to move forward. Also, I would suggest, you have 17 years in a certain area. You want to find out what you want to do next and have a clear vision of that next kind of role. And then when you interview, you're much more targeted in terms of the type of role and then what you do and what you've done in the past and how that crosses over. Because it's a lot of times, and this is not fair, but the environment is such, more often than not, companies want to hire plug and play people, folks who have the exact background, who like day one could get the job and just start working. So it's not impossible, but it's harder, like we talked about before, to kind of pivot into something new. So if you could find something that your skills, your background crosses over, you might have a much better chance of getting the interview, getting the callbacks, and moving forward. Whether now that might be with another social services kind of thing, perhaps, or other areas in the private sector that it crosses over. But I would do that. I would first take care of yourself and get, because it's hard to interview carrying all that around. So figure out how to cope with that the best you can, then figure out what you want to do next, have a narrative, how you could take your experience and apply that to that other role, and then just start moving forward. And don't get discouraged if at first you get pushback, because that happens. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. You improve how you give an elevator pitch, you improve with the answers. And then before you know it, you'll definitely get interviews and callbacks.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Some online applications require college graduation dates.
Yeah, it's with applications, right? That has to be one of the most frustrating things, because you have your resume, and then they'll ask you to upload your resume, but then they'll ask you to fill out this whole lengthy application, and you're like, why am I filling out this whole lengthy application when I gave you my resume? So it's and a lot of these applications, if you don't do it, you can't go forward. So sometimes, I don't know, you're kind of stuck. Maybe you put in your date, or maybe you put in, I don't know, 0000, in the boxes. It's one of those annoying things that you have to deal with, which I hope one day changes and you don't have to kind of spend hours.
From an HR perspective,
Yeah.
High school is illegal. They are not allowed to ask you your high school graduation date. Why? Because now we know how old you are, and it's ripe for ageism.
Yeah.
Discrimination.
Jack,
College is different. Some people go to college right after high school. Some people go to college a couple of years after. Some people just graduated last year and they're, I don't know, 67. So they're allowed to ask that. And that's why they're asking it. Are you taught recent methods of management or whatever in college? Or is your college from 30 years ago, one, showing your age, two, showing your what you were taught? So you don't want to depend on that, and you want to constantly be learning so you can talk about that.
I've seen that as a
Interesting,
single
Jack.
question on Indeed. You fill out the thing, you upload your resume. Oh, let us ask you one question before you go. What year did you graduate college?
Let us ask you. You
Unbelievable.
can choose to answer it or choose not to. That's all. You are in control of your job search. You can decide whether you want to answer it or not answer it. And that is really up to you. There are companies that are doing illegal things, but no, well, again, if they're treating you like this in the, application state, what are they going to treat you like when you get hired, if you get hired? Just saying.
Christine.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take over, Jack.
No, that's great. That's cool. I love it. That's great
Go ahead.
advice.
Question.
Can I ask a question?
Christine, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Just 1 second, Jacqueline.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, this
gentleman.
is George.
Okay.
I'm the guy who asked about the college graduation
Okay.
date, but Another thing I'm seeing online is salary requirement, and that's an asterisk a lot of times too. So
Salary requirement is for you to do
Yeah.
research and figure out what the range is, not salary past history, because that is now illegal too. So
Right.
salary requirement is how much you need to be paid to pay your bills, to pay your tolls and your gas, and what are you expecting? It doesn't matter if you got paid $12 an hour to pay your mortgage or your rent during COVID. What is this job worth, and what do you need to make at this job?
but is that another way for them to filter you out? I mean, that's
Yes, it
I
is.
see that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. And that's why your network is always most important in job search.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jacqueline?
So the question that I had was, they still, I just recently received my degree in
Yes.
2020, in 2020. I have over 25 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to get away from being an administrative assistant and trying to go into maybe photography editing or even Adobe editing. I'm trying to switch. But then a lot of these agencies keep contacting me, asking me to do reception. Not saying I don't refuse it. I still accept it. But it's just like, and then I showed them that I have a degree, but they still want to pay me $15, $16 an hour. I'm like, no, you have to pay me 20. I mean, 20 is even low for someone who has a bachelor's and over 30 years experience.
Yeah.
Jack,
So
what do you think?
What happens
Yeah.
is this, Jacqueline, and this I think would relate to everyone. A lot of companies want to put you in a box. You're an administrative assistant, that's who you are. And that's how they see you. And so if there's a recruiter or someone else, they're going to see you as an administrative assistant. And it's hard to kind of get out of that box, if you will. What I would suggest, so you have the degree, maybe what you can do, and it's what more photography. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you walk me
Yeah,
through?
my degree is visual arts. So I can do a lot of things. I can do photo editing, assist a graphic designer, so I have a lot of options I can do because I have a lot of the skills.
Have you put together a portfolio of your work?
Yeah, I did. I did show a few places, but the thing is they'd see that I don't have the actual work experience.
Okay.
So what I'm keep doing is I keep uploading new photos, and I join groups on LinkedIn so that if somebody sees me, like, oh, look, here's her work.
I number one, I think that's a good idea, Jacqueline. If that's say on LinkedIn, you could put your work on to show people, because that's the best thing. You showcase your work. So then hopefully people see what you do and say, wow, Jacqueline's really good. We have a
Yes.
need for it. I would also make sure that you start connecting with people on LinkedIn who would be the likely hiring people. So you would look for the companies you would want to work for.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
There. And then if you're connected, then they'll see your work, comment when they do. So then they start knowing you. Also,
The one thing I want to say is you said something about the high school diploma. I am not embarrassed to tell you my age. I am not. But I don't like it when I have already received my bachelor's and you're still asking me what year did I graduate high school. And the lady, the HR lady who spoke, she says they're not supposed to ask. So yeah, so and then you know what I do when they start doing that? I leave the website and I said, this is not worth it.
If Jacqueline, I would suggest it too. There are other, if I don't know off the top of my head, I want to say like Fiverr. There's a whole lot of sites where you could kind of get work like on a gig basis. And I'm saying this, Jacqueline, not as a substitute for finding that permanent full-time job, but to have, when you say, hey, they're not giving you a shot because they want to see the experience. So this way you could show the experience. Hey, I worked for Maria Incorporated, and here's the work I did for her. I worked for Susan, Corporation.
Well, what's up?
Look at the
Do you
work.
know any websites for that?
Off the top of my head, I'm spacing out, but if you kind of Google, there's like a lot of them. There are a lot of these kind of gig sites where you could post, hey, I'll do this for you. I'll do this, photography, whatever. Or I'll do this, So yeah. So this way, if you could kind of, then you have not only a portfolio from school, but then you say, hey, here are paying clients. So then when you go and they say, do you have experience? You go, yes, I do. And here's some of my clients. And then maybe your clients could give you a recommendation. She goes, not only my clients, but here's all the good things they're saying about my work.
Okay, I'm gonna try that. Thank you for your help,
You're
okay?
Yeah, great.
Recently
Let's,
immigrated. I'm 54 years old. I am not invited for an interview, perhaps because I do not have enough American experience or age. What are your tips?
well, maybe you could give a little bit more color on that, George. What are you looking to do? What did you do?
Doesn't say.
Hi, it's me. Can I
Yep,
speak?
go ahead.
Thank you. I just recently immigrated in the United States, and I did some like management work in the different projects and international projects related to digital transformation. And it was a work.
You froze. You're frozen.
Oh, no.
It looks like
Okay.
a project management from what she said. And so if they're international companies and not American companies, is there, how do you perceive it as a recruiter? Do you, or maybe how other recruiters perceive it? Does it matter?
Yeah, I don't know enough about her situation, but just generally, it's interesting. Like in my line of work is in recruiting, I deal a lot with Wall Street companies, investment banks, brokerage firms, and so on. And there's so many international companies that have businesses here in the US for the obvious reason we're a big market. And I do notice, so let's say it's the First Bank of Greece or the First Bank of Italy, or you name it, things like that, and they have a US arm. Oftentimes they hire people who are in the US, but maybe originally came from that country, speak the language, know the culture. And because they feel, hey, it's a much easier way to find somebody who would kind of fit in because they understand the language, they understand the culture and so on. So they don't just hire exclusively that, but you do have a competitive edge. So if you could find that company that maybe where you came from and speak the language, maybe have a better shot of getting in that door because their clients speak the same, their customers speak the same language and so on. So that could be kind of a way to kind of get started and make that segue.
Yeah, thank you. I did this work, but I didn't get any invitation to interview. That was during the last 10 months. So some like, yes, I'm disappointed. So I don't know what to do. What's wrong?
So you're interviewing, but you're just not getting.
No, I didn't get any invitations for interview. So I don't know why it doesn't work.
Okay, so you're sending out resumes and applying
Yeah,
online,
right.
but nothing is happening.
Mhm.
Now, are you applying for jobs that you have the background, the experience for, or how's?
Yeah. I applied to the jobs related to my background and my language skills, of course, but nothing.
And they don't even give you any feedback or anything like that?
No.
Here's something maybe you could try. And I would say this would hold for everybody here. Oftentimes when you're sending out resumes, filling out applications, it's so easy to do now. You go on LinkedIn, they have the easy apply, you could hit it. So it's so easy for everyone to hit boom, 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 just send out like dozens and dozens of them. Everybody has a phone, so it's easy to send from your phone. You have the job aggregators like Indeed and Glassdoor. So companies are inundated with resumes. I think a good way to kind of almost cut in line is you first find what are companies that I'd like to work for. So you get kind of a range of those companies. Then you try to find out, do I know anybody who works at that company? And if you do, then you want to call them up and say, hey, Rob, you're working at ABC Widget Company. I'd love to work there. can you help me out? I'll send you my resume. Can you make sure it gets in front of the right hiring manager? If you don't know anybody there, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. You want to find someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone to get you in, because that way is highly effective, because people always feel comfortable, interviewing someone who's recommended. Because
Why?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Why?
I'm sorry, why?
Why do they feel comfortable interviewing?
Because let's say, Christine, you and I are working, let's say we're working at the same company together. And then Cecilia sends it over. We know Cecilia and she's awesome. And we'll say, let's get her in front of the HR person. And they can say, well, Christine is really great. She's an awesome employee. She's been here forever. Jack has been a great employee, been here forever. And if he is recommending Cecilia, how can we not meet? So they feel we're not going to steer them wrong. We have a connection. And then also what happens too with companies, if you have, I find out, I see this firsthand when I'm recruiting. If you're in a company and you have like this nice core group of people you're comfortable with, the odds are you're going to stay there longer, because it's not so much maybe the company, it's just you like the people you're with and you're reluctant to leave. So and the companies know that, so that if you have somebody who would fit in there, they go, all right, the odds are you guys are going to stay there longer, because now you have a big connection there, not just to the company, but to each other. And also, when you have so many resumes, you don't know who to pick from. So, picture you're an HR person and you get this stack of resumes and you're like, I don't know. But then you hear Cecilia, she's great, from 2 different people. All right, let's just bring her in. And it just makes life much easier.
So resume styles, I mean, we talked about 1 page, 2 page, 8 pages, that kind of thing. And what's the modern format and technology and all that good stuff. Does it really matter? I mean, we're talking about keywords and getting past algorithms for the ATS, and then an in-person person to view it with their eyes. And that's like, gosh, a couple hour topic. So what do you suggest that people do?
Yeah, I think one of the best, as I was mentioning before, I think one of the best ways is to find someone who's at that company and get in front of them and have them advocate for you, because it cuts through all the bureaucracy. And sometimes it's hard because you may not know anybody there. You don't know anyone who knows there. But if you can find somebody who if you could find friends, family, whatever, who could put in a good word, I think that just helps so much. Because it's such a big difference. Because when they're saying, hey, I know Donna and she's awesome, here's her resume, can you please meet with that, with Donna, it makes it so much easier. It makes everyone's life easier. So I think that's like one of those shortcuts that's super productive.
Do you think a functional resume versus a chronological resume matters? Or depending on background, we should pick and choose? Or what are your opinions on that, or opinions of other resume recruiters? I
think for the resume, it's really putting on the first 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points exactly what you do, really clearly, list your responsibilities. Stay away from buzzwords and jargon or inside company jargon that people wouldn't know about except for people who work at your company, because that's what they're looking at. They're looking at the resume and saying, here's a job description on one side, here's a resume. They want to see, do you have it? Check, 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 check. And if you have it, then they're like, all right, yeah, let's talk to this person. If you don't have it, they're going to kind of move on. Or if they can't tell, like if they're looking and they're like, I'm not really sure. Do they do it? Do they not do? And you have so many other resumes, you're just going to go, okay, next. So the key, I think, is being super clear in terms of what you do, your responsibilities, your accomplishments, your achievements. If you could quantify them, hey, maybe you met and exceeded your quota. Maybe if there's certain things that you could have numbers to show how you've increased and made the company better, those are all great. But you want to make it super easy for whoever's reading it to say, oh my gosh, Joan has exactly what we're looking for. Let's get her on a Zoom call.
Pre-interview assessments, the online assessments. everyone is seeing them a little bit more often because it's another way to weed out candidates. Is there a way that somebody can prepare for those assessments?
You know, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. The only thing is I would say is that when you're looking for a job, I think you want to have in your mind the kind of company, the kind of job, and if you're sending your resume, you really want to know a lot about the organization so that whether it's a pre-assessment or the interview, and they ask you whatever question, you can be able to answer because you've done your homework on it. And when you've done your homework on it, it makes the hiring manager, the interviewer feel much more confident and comfortable in you because they feel, hey, you're not just sending out your resume everywhere. I could see that you took the time, the effort, the energy to look for this particular job, this particular company, and you're interested in it. So because of that, I'm more interested in you as a candidate. So I think if it's just you're shotgunning your resume everywhere, I understand that. And in a way it makes sense because it's you're trying to cover all bases. But I think if maybe you don't send as many, but you're really thoughtful and you're really going after like a sharpshooter, going after the type of job you want and know and learn about it. So then when it comes to an assessment, it comes to filling out an application, comes to an interview, you'll be better at doing it. And also you'll be more excited about doing it because you really like this job as opposed to just sending your resumes and like, yeah, if it hits, it hits. It doesn't, it doesn't.
I have over 40 years of experience and feel that it's all important to my skill set. Should I just take the last 25 years and focus on those skills or mention everything, or how would I present all of that?
I would take whatever the most recent things you've been doing and really talk to that because the chances are that's what you're doing recently. That's what's fresh in there. And then, you can have a few bullet points of what you've been doing recently, your last couple of jobs, but then you can have maybe a roundup-ish bullet point that talks about all the other things. And even with 40 years experience, you could distill it down to the essence of what's really important, what's mission critical, and then also what's relevant for the job at hand. Now, could all 40 years be relevant? Maybe, maybe not. It could be. Or maybe just 10 of it is relevant, or maybe 5 years. So you want to cherry pick what the company's looking for, what the requirements are, and here's what I've done over that 40 years. Because if you just say like, hey, I have 40 years, give me the job. And obviously you're not saying that literally, it's figuratively. That's, I notice, what rubs hiring managers the wrong way, because then they feel this is a person who's just going to be, I've done this 40 years. Now listen to me because I know best. You want to show how, hey, here's how the pieces of what I've done really resonate with what you're looking for and how I could help. And so I would kind of craft the resume that way. So the reader isn't hearing, okay, it's just 40 years. That's what this has to offer. But the specific things you've done relative to the job at hand and why you'd be a good fit, then you got their attention.
So if you do that, what do you put in a cover letter? What do you recommend?
A lot of times people don't read cover letters. See, that's the thing too. I think most people just will read a cover letter if there's an extenuating circumstance, meaning maybe you live in New York, but you want to work remotely in Silicon Valley, or there's some story you need to tell, like some of the people have mentioned, in this call already, certain specific instances why you may not have been working and so on. I would say the cover letter for that kind of thing, because more often than not, a lot of times recruiters don't read the cover letter. They'll only read it if they feel like, hey, there's more to the story, what's going on. Then they want to see a cover letter. Why was this person not working for the last year? Did someone have, a health illness and so on? Or someone wants to relocate or work in a remote place and it wouldn't be clear from the resume they want to go remote. So for those, I put a little cover note. But more often than not, if you feel comfortable doing it, sure. But just bear in mind, a lot of people may not look at it.
What if the job board, so to speak, says, highly suggested you include a cover letter, such as Indeed?
It's a personal choice. It's a personal choice because, as I mentioned, I think a lot of recruiters don't really look at it because they figure.
I agree with you, Jack.
It's just like, because if you look at a resume, right? A good resume, because a good resume, you're going to look and go, oh, wow, boop, 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 looking down. Hey, this is what they do. This is perfect. This is great. Okay. and no one, and they don't, because it's much easier to just read the bullet points than kind of read through a whole, novel on a cover letter. Yeah. And just because they ask, I don't know, you don't have to necessarily do it. Like if I post a job on, let's say, LinkedIn, they say they have all these things to push me to do. And I find out if I just ignore them, it goes on anyway. So I could just kind of bypass it.
Do the years of volunteering and being maybe a chair of a group, leading individuals, it could be over 10 years. Community volunteering, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Does that go on your resume, and where, like under jobs, or?
I would put it towards the end. So like at the end, it would be like other stuff you do. And yeah, because it shows maybe you give back to the community. Maybe you're doing something, you're helping the homeless, things that, you've done, you spent a lot of time, you're passionate about, because number one, maybe the person who's hiring shares that same enthusiasm for what you're doing. Number two, they feel, wow, this is a good, well-rounded person who gives back to their community or does other good deeds. So it stands out. The thing I would tell you, I think I would advise to be careful of is anything with politics, because we're in such a political thing. So if you put on the resume, hey, I campaigned for this person, I campaigned for that person, you run the risk of alienating half of the interviewers who may be very against that candidate. And that's such a bold move to kind of alienate half the people. It's a risk you're taking. Now, if you go.
You froze, Jack.
Can I ask one question?
You can, but Jack is frozen. So go for it.
Yeah. You talked about.
Let's say very liberal.
Oh, he's back. All right, Jack,
Okay.
go ahead.
So I don't know where I got left off, but so I would say, say unstable. So I would say this: if you talk about politics, you run the risk of alienating half the people, and that's too much of a risk. The only way I would suggest otherwise, you have some companies that you could kind of tell their cultural leanings, and then if it coincides with them, then I might do that. But otherwise, stay away from politics. But if you do have, these charitable works, things that you've really helped people, you want to put it down. You work, maybe you're on the PTA, maybe you're in the, Chamber of Commerce, whatever it is, it may resonate well and show you as a complete person.
Do you think there should be different resumes for different positions?
Yes.
Like you said that there's, you want to kind of blanket and target all kinds of places. So the words in your resume should be different?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would do this. You have one resume, right? One core resume, but then you want to tailor it for the specific jobs you're doing, because not your one core may not resonate with each one, because you might have a job that has this like little twist to it. So you want to add that you do that little twist thing. You have something, another job that requires some other kind of weird stuff. Then you look back, because I'll tell candidates this all the time, where I'll speak to them, we have their resume, and the job, let's say the job is dealing with cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, NFTs, what have you. And then the person will say something, oh yeah, I have experience with it. But I look at the resume, I'm like, I don't see it there. So so they must have like a standard resume they use for everything. But then you want to incorporate for the particular job you're looking for, what you've done for them. Because that's what the hiring manager is looking for. They want to see, think about it. If you're a hiring manager, you're selfish and understanding. So you want someone who could come in there and is going to make your life easier and better. So then when you see a resume, you want to see how much stuff does this person have to make my life easier and better.
So is a T-letter resume where you want this and I have that kind of thing, side-by-side comparison, does that make it easier for a recruiter to view, or do you not recommend that resume setup?
I think I don't know about the setup that way, but they just want to find that if they're looking, they just want to make sure you could hit the ground running day one. And again, I think because I say selfish, but I don't mean it in a negative, pejorative way. I mean, it's just, that's what you want. You want someone who can come in and work and know what they're doing and not have to handhold if you don't have to. And that's what they're looking for. So
I say the exact same things, Jack. That's so funny.
Yeah. So you might as well if that's what they want, to me, it doesn't make sense not to give it to them. You know what I mean? You just want to say, here you go. I'm going to make your life. Basically what you're saying is, here you go. Look, I am going to make your life easier. I'm going to make it, because that's what they care about. I'm going to make you look good, boss. I'm going to come in there. I'm going to do a great job. Look why I'm going to do a great job, because I have all this stuff. And look how easy I'm making it for you just to call me up and say, let's have a Zoom call.
So when we're talking about all this stuff I have, some people have spent the entire pandemic just working on themselves and increasing the amount of certifications, the kinds of certifications they have to keep relevant and up to date. Is there a place on their resume that they should even include that? Or
Absolutely.
Is that a conversation for an interview? How does that work?
I would definitely put on the resume. If you have certifications that are relevant for the job, absolutely put them on there, because it shows.
Should it be at the top? Should it be in the middle, at the bottom? Like where would you place something like
usually
that?
I'll see it towards the bottom where it gives like other skills, other whatever stuff, because it shows that, okay, you took the time, the effort to learn something. You've picked up these skills. Certain kind of jobs want to have the licenses, accreditations, certifications. But I will say this, be careful, because there's a big trend now where, hey, get this certification, take this class, take that. Before you know it, you're shelling out a lot of money. And a lot of these companies and the places will tout it like, okay, you take this and you're going to get a job. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. I think the best way to look at it, if you're making a decision, do I go for this certification? Do I go for this kind of classwork? Do I go for this license? Is not that that's going to necessarily open the door, but it's just another nice thing to have, that maybe if they're deciding between two candidates, by you having it, they'll go your direction. But
Absolutely.
I wouldn't necessarily take the time, money, and effort thinking that's going to open up all the doors, because then you'll be disappointed.
And that's why there's so much online for free. I had put in the chat box my YouTube channel, and there are a ton of handouts for you as far as temp agencies, as far as gig work agencies, and where to go for those free online classes and certifications. I'm a big free girl. I like free. So everything is on there. Definitely check it out. There's a lot of really good and useful information for you. Jack, our next question. I have had several temp jobs. Being laid off from a job, I had 21 years. I have not worked since December 2020, height of the pandemic. How do I rewrite a resume?
It's a good question. With temp jobs, one thing I would suggest is you cube them all together, because what happens if you have a whole lot of temp jobs and someone looks at it visually, they think of you, is this person a job hopper?
Yes.
Like, oh, wait, they moved here, here, here. And then a hiring manager is going to think, wait a minute, Lisa's going to come in, and based on her history, she'll probably stay here 6 months and leave. I don't want to train someone and learn the ropes, and then Lisa leaves in 6 months. That's crazy. So somehow maybe you could put under one bullet point, I specialize in healthcare, and I've worked over the last 10 years with a number of companies in the healthcare space doing, and then you could, just like a regular resume, here's what you're doing, and then maybe you can name the most prominent ones you worked at, and then just kind of leave it sort of vaguish, because you don't want to have too much because if it's too much, they're going to just go right past it. So this way, you have a few companies, you talk about all the things you've done. So this way I'll catch their attention.
Okay. How do you indicate your resume, former employer is currently out of business?
I guess just straightforward, work for ABC Industries. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, they weren't able to make it and closed down.
A lot of places went out of business.
Yeah,
So I've heard from a lot of recruiters that if you put like a little blurb, one sentence at maximum, what the company is all about or what it does, it's very helpful for a recruiter to know, like, did you make widgets? Were you in healthcare? Is it a healthcare pharmaceutical company? Or I never heard of it. It was in Texas, and now you're in, I don't know, Vermont or whatever it happens to be. So that helps a recruiter or a new recruiter just starting out.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. They still ask what I do, even though I have a degree.
You're always going to ask, be prepared. You're always going to get dumb questions. When you're interviewing, your eyes are going to fall out from rolling so hard. All right. It's just the nature of the beast. And And maybe this helps out too, to just talk about the whole like interview thing. What happens is this, in my opinion, this is the nuttiest thing ever. They'll tell people, they'll say, okay, Heather, Maria, we want you to interview, Robert. But they don't train you to interview Robert. They just assume you're going to be able to interview. And I can tell you from being a recruiter for 20 plus years, I do this LinkedIn live show where I interview people. It's not easy to do. The more you do it, you get better at it. And the ones who are good, they make it seem so natural that you think, oh, okay, you can do it, but it's hard. So number one, they throw people out there to interview and they have no idea what to do, what to ask for. So what ends up happening, they ask the very safe cliche questions, so you're going to get all those dumb, dopey, like really questions because they don't know what to say, what to do. And then in today's day and age, in this kind of litigious society and this kind of polarized society, no one wants to ask something that then maybe they could be accused of racism, sexism, thisism, that-ism. So they'll ask very bland kind of stuff. And that's kind of when you interview, sometimes you wonder, like, what's going on here? Like, they're not really asking these really, they're not giving me anything to really, chew on and to really be able to sell myself. So if you get in those situations, you'll kind of figure out it's not just you. This is what's happening across the board. The interview process is very bizarre. And another thing too, there's a tendency to over-interview because I think a lot of people aren't confident in making a decision. So if they're not confident, they just say, okay, let's get, Joan to be on the interview. Let's get, Frank to be on the interview. And before you know it, you have 5, 6, 7, 8 interviewers interviewing because the hiring manager is afraid to make the decision him or herself. So it becomes this long process and a decision by consensus because the hiring manager is just scared to make the call.
Yes, absolutely. Jack, another question you probably have heard before. Job boards, Indeed, Monster, Career Builder, blah, blah, blah. And there's 263 of them, in case you didn't know, guys, are a waste of time. And that leveraging your personal contacts is the only effective way to get a job. How do I build such a network?
So if you haven't already, you want to start. I think it's really critical to build that network because as we talked about earlier, if you know somebody who works at the company and they can get you in, that's so awesome. That's like the best thing. It makes life easier. So you want to have that network who you could turn to and ask for help and make connections. If you haven't, start now. And the way you start is just like, for instance, a call like this, exchange emails, link in with each other, stay in touch with each other. Now, you might find certain people you feel more comfortable with than others. Sure. You want to find people who, in your neighborhood, you want to find coworkers, colleagues, people in your temple, your church, in your mosque, whatever it may be. You want to really cultivate having in real relationships because that's where you could depend on. Because the bigger your network is, the more likelihood, it's a numbers game, that they'll know of a job opening. They'll know of someone who's hiring. They'll know someone who works at a company. So having a network, I think, is super important to help you out. And then sometimes it's important just to get some knowledge about what's going on. Because if you're in a company, sometimes you're siloed. So you only know what's going on in your little piece of the world. But if you now have a whole bunch of people who are working for all these different companies, you kind of get a sense of really what's happening around. So it makes you a better candidate because you just know what's going on in the sector. Now, oh, maybe I'm not getting an interview because this sector stinks. Nothing's happening. They're downsizing, or this sector is on fire. But then why am I not getting a resume? What am I doing wrong? Because it's a hot market. So building that network is super key. But I wouldn't give up on the job boards either. I would still do that, but do it critically and not just shotgun it all over the place. Because it could be a waste of time in the sense that they get so many resumes, but you want to hedge your bets. Because let's say there's a really great job on a job board. Could they have a ton of resumes? Yeah. But if you don't send it, they're not going to have yours. So it makes sense to at least give it a shot. And if there are jobs that you really like, that you're good for, that make sense, even if you know you're going to be competing with so many other resumes, you want to at least be in the game.
Current statistics say that any job board, you have a 2% chance of landing by applying through a job board. And you have an 85% chance of landing from networking. think about the time that you're spending on job search. You still need to spend 2% of your time on flying through job boards. You got to be in it to win it. But if you're spending more than 2, 5, 7% of your time, the hours that you spend on job search, you probably want to kind of weigh that and put it more towards that networking part to even it out so that you get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. And then also, if you're on the job board, one of the other positive elements is this: you can kind of see the trend. So let's say you see a lot of jobs in your space, then you may say, all right, this is good. That means I'm in the right area. It's a hot market. It's on my side. If you look and you're not seeing any, then it's like, yikes, not so good. I got to figure something else out because it doesn't seem like this is a hot area. So it gives you some market intelligence.
Yes.
And
Research.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you are networking, I know that somebody had asked how to build your network. Make sure that you are going about it properly, because how you ask could be very detrimental to you and give you that scarlet letter that you're not looking for. So you're always making it about them and you're never asking for anything on that initial contact when you are reaching out to somebody that's new. And you're not asking for a job especially, or asking for a sale of some kind, because that is very off-putting. You're building bridges, making friends, and then taking it to the next point. So networking does take time. So keep that in mind.
I offer this, Christine.
Hidden job market, Kelly. Jack Kelly, tell me, hidden job market.
Well, before they hidden job market, I'll tell you, I'm not as nice a person as you are, Christine. So I would say, yeah, you want to be polite, but you know what? Sometimes guilt, sometimes arm twisting, sometimes cajoling works. Sometimes, you know what? You have to call in favors. You have to be, you have to say, hey, Jay, come on. You got to help me out here. I know it's uncomfortable for you to talk to the HR person and get my resume in front of her. You got to hook me up. You got to help me out. I don't want to tell your wife about what you and I did the other night. Come on, do it. You got to kind of help me out. So yeah, sometimes, you got to do what you got to do.
That sounds like blackmail, Jack. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of. Well, yeah, that's why I said I'm not as nice as you. Like sometimes you just gotta, you gotta listen. You gotta get a job, so you gotta try whatever. Now, obviously not blackmail, but a little guilt. Yeah. A little subtle pressure, a little nudging, a little nudging every once in a while, because most people are busy. So you say, hey, can you, Maria, can you get my resume in front of me? Oh, sure, Jack, I will. Hey, Marie, did you get it? Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Hey, Maria, did you send it over? Yeah, I'll do it. Maria, did you do it? Sometimes you just have to be in front of it because people are busy. They have a whole lot of other things to do. They feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
But you know what? If you need
Jack,
a job.
Christine,
I'm sorry.
Christine, Jack, that question came from me. So
yeah.
The reason I asked is because are there job posting people put on Twitter and Facebook and things like that we don't see on job boards? That's why I'm thinking the hidden job market.
Hidden job market charge.
Yeah, and so the hidden job market is really, there's like, for instance, as a recruiter, a lot of times I'll get a job to work on, but they may not put it out there because they just want to kind of keep it low key. It could be because a person is still in the job and they're trying to phase that person out, so they don't want anyone to know. Or it could be they just don't want, for whatever variety of reasons, to know that this job is available. I think one of some of the best ways to kind of tap into it is that to find a recruiter in your space who's really knowledgeable, so that with these, usually companies will only go to a recruiter if it's a very hard to fill role, because they got to pay. It's you have to pay a placement fee, and it's not cheap. It's like 20-25% of the base annual salary, so it's a lot of money. So they're going to go when it's hard to fill. And so if you tap into recruiters, and I would say find recruiters in your field, because you're better off if you have someone who knows that world, who knows the people, who have the contacts, knows the companies, knows the personnel of these companies. So that's really, so you want to find a recruiter for that. You also want to go back to what Christine was saying about the network. That's why your network is key, because you could kind of tap into them and say, hey, Rob, you're at Morgan Stanley. I hear have you heard about this type of job that's open? Then you talk about the job you're interested in. So you could kind of find an insider who could tell you about it. before it even goes live. Because sometimes it's great if you could find that job. So let's say Rob is at Morgan Stanley and there's a really job that I want, and he finds out about it and says, yeah, Jack, there is, and Jacqueline is the hiring manager. I can get in front of Jacqueline and say, hey, I understand from Rob that you're looking to hire. Here's my resume. Can we talk? And Jacqueline might be like, yeah, sure. Because the job's not even out there yet. Like, yeah, let's talk. So already I have a competitive advantage because I'm in front of her. Now, maybe she'll see other resumes down the road and so on. Or maybe she'll go, hey, if Rob said Jack is good, I met with Jack. He seemed pretty nice and smart and knowledgeable. I don't have to go through a whole process. Let's just do it. Let's just make this happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jacqueline, I'm sorry. You did have a question. I totally forgot about you. So go ahead.
Okay. On LinkedIn, during COVID, they had this hashtag looking for work, right? Is it okay to do that as your profile? Seeking employment, seeking new opportunities, on your profile on LinkedIn so people and recruiters can see that you're open?
Are you talking about the green circle for open to work? Or are you talking
Yes.
about a hashtag
No,
open
both
to work?
of them. No, they had them both on LinkedIn.
Yes, they did.
Yes. So should I do that again?
Jack?
I'm agnostic about, that having that, green banner, and it's subsided a little bit. But if you do put it on there, the thing I noticed that was to me a little problematic is that they would have that banner, and then more often than not, people would say, don't get mad at me if you guys have done this, where it says open to work. And then in the byline, it say something like, hey, COVID, I need help. And then you're like, all right, well, how can I help you? What are you looking to do? What job do you want? What kind of company? So if you do have that open to work, you want to follow up by saying, hey, I'm a photographer. I'm into digital, what have you. I'm looking for a job doing A, B, C, D. If you know anybody who works at this company, that company, the other company, please let me know. So you want to be very specific so that if you're looking for help, you want to make their life easier who's trying to help and not harder.
Absolutely. All right. So we have kind of a slippery slope question here. We have somebody during this whole Me Too society phase, whatever, everyone's talking about this. And there's a really good part to having that being talked about. What's the best way to express that a company was kind of against that and the person got fired? And when we go on an interview or we're talking about this was the position and I was the whistleblower and I got caught up in all of that politics and got fired for being that person. How do you express that when you know that you're not supposed to say anything negative about a company?
Wow, that's rough. So in other words,
yeah,
the person didn't do anything wrong. They were just caught up in this whole thing.
They did their job, and
and then that's rough. The only thing I could suggest is when you interview, you want to be.
You're frozen. Where's Jack?
Prepared for what to say.
All right, say it all again. You got frozen.
Okay. So whether it's the situation that you're mentioning, or it happens to a lot of things where when you go and interview and maybe you downsize, maybe you had an argument with your former boss. When you go and interview, a lot of times people can't divorce what happened when you interview, and it comes out. And the interviewer asks you about it, and you almost dump all that in their lap. And then it's very uncomfortable for the interviewer because now they don't know, is it Jack's fault? Is it the boss's fault? And then they feel, I don't want to know. This is just too messy. I'm peacing out on this. I'm going to the next one. So I think the best way to go about doing it, if you have let's just call it a blemish. You had a blemish, you had a problem, you quickly describe what happened. So my last role, person made a whistleblower type complaint. And for some reason, what happens in these corporate things, a whole bunch of people get tied up with it, and it'd be very easy to say, you know what, we're just letting everybody go. And I was part of that, even though I didn't do anything. However, that was a very unpleasant experience. And fortunately, I know I did all the right things by being the whistleblower, and I'm excited to move to this new job, because at this new job, I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. So it's you kind of talk about what happened. You don't dwell on it. And this is hard to do. And this is really hard to do, is you just want to come across calm, cool, collected, no sign of anger, no sign of resentment, no sign of bitterness, because those are big tells, you know. And then if you feel that way, they're going to just assume you did something wrong. So you just want to be completely just chill about it. Here's what happened, and here's what I'm looking to do next. Move it forward. Because otherwise, if you leave that door open, they'll ask you more questions. And then if they start asking more questions, then you just dig a hole and it's just never going to work out. So you just want to deflect, give an answer. You don't want to ignore it. You want to, you know, in sales, they call it, you get an objection. You overcome the objection, you move forward, and then you try to close and just keep moving forward and letting the stuff in the past so they forget about it and just focus on you know, the next questions.
You had mentioned earlier about really honing in on what you want to be when you grow up and catering it to that specific subject as opposed to being everything to everyone. What tips would you give to someone who really is not sure what their career path should be? What would be best? Is there a better way to work with a recruitment company to find a job, or, you know, how do I narrow everything down? I'm kind of, yeah.
That's tough. See, with that, I would suggest that person who doesn't know to really do some soul searching about what they're good at, what they want to do, what their talents lend themselves to doing. You want to research areas to feel, hey, will I be good at X or Y or Z? You want to talk to a lot of people. Do you want to find maybe people who are in that space that either you know, or you could reach out to folks online and say, hey, you're doing such and such. I'm interested in that. Can you tell me about it? So if you're not really sure, you have to really kind of just measure what you're good at, what skills you have, what background you have, why it's good. Are there jobs in that space? Do you like that space? Find out as much as you can about it. Speak with people in it to learn, because yeah, it's hard. Because if you go to WeCruitr or anyone else, if you don't know what you want, they're gonna be like, all right, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know. How am I gonna know what you want? So you got to kind of, I think it's gonna be for you to kind of figure out at first, but soliciting some help from people.
Is cold calling or mailing a cover letter and resume to a potential employer a valid way of expressing interest in a position, or is that method kind of outdated at this point in time?
I still will cold call people, send cold emails, because you know what? If you want to do something, you got to do it. You know what? Because otherwise you overthink it, and you overthink, well, if I say this, what are they going to say? What are they going to think? I just figure if you're not being rude and you're being polite and you're doing this for a good reason, then fine, you know? So, I mean, the worst that happens is like you call somebody, and I'll get this as a recruiter, why are you calling me on my cell number? Well, you gave me your cell number. So, or why are you sending this to me? Why are you emailing to me?
I got that yesterday. How do you know who I am? And I'm
Yeah.
like, seriously?
You're going to get that.
Yeah.
You're going to always get people who are going to be angry and annoyed.
Yes.
But like, those people can be angry and annoyed no matter what, because there's a certain percentage of people always angry and annoyed no matter what you do.
Yes.
You know, so you can't worry about it. You just got to worry about yourself, and your job is to get a job. And yeah, if it's sending a cold emails, making a cold call, so be it. You know, worst they say is, hey, leave me alone. Okay.
I really do promote the try things for 6 weeks. If it doesn't work, try something a little bit different to see if that's going to help. Because if you keep doing the exact same thing, the same resume, the same networking and cold calling and interviews, whatever it is, and you're not getting the results that you want or need, then you need to change a little bit so you don't keep repeating the exact same failures. Change it up a little bit.
That's great advice. That's really, yeah, Yeah, because sometimes you get caught up just doing the same thing, and you don't get the results, and you're not going to, it's just not working. So you got to just do something different.
Right. So what would you say? Is there a rhyme or reason to colors to wear for interviews? Like a men's suit, like, would you say it's blue and then black and then gray, or is there an order, or does it matter? Or I don't know.
See, that's, it's interesting because it's shifting now, because like, I imagine maybe another 6 months, God willing, everything goes all right, you probably might have more in-person interviews as opposed to the Zoom calls. I think we're going to have to keep our eyes open to see, is the trend going to be, because we're doing online interviews, that it's going to be not as formal. I can speak more from a guy's point of view because of, if you haven't noticed, I'm a guy, so I kind of know like what to wear and stuff. So like I would tell candidates, wear, okay, like a shirt, like a button shirt, so it looks okay. And then if it's like, let's say you're going to like a stuffy bank, okay, then maybe put like, not a blazer because they look like boxy, but like put a nice, suit jacket on. Can't go wrong with a dark blue one. I would even go take the next step, put a little white pocket square in there to make you look a little sharp, and boom, and you look sharp. Maybe you leave the tie off so it's not too uptight, something like that. But then you tailor it depending on the company you're doing. So if you're going to maybe some sort of startup tech company, then you might want to wear something much more casual. So you want to kind of align yourself with what the company is like, what their culture is like. Are they stuffy? Are they loose? Are they, old school, and so on. So maybe do a little research on them before you figure out what to wear.
Do you
Jack,
have
that
an
was
opinion about retainers and, retainer positions for contract positions, pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic, the employment situation now? Companies are kind of in a flux, trying to figure out what their future is going to look like and where they're going to be. Where does retainer and recruiting agencies come into play with that?
If you're asking about like a retainer for recruiting, what that is, a company, ABC company would say to Jack Ellie, hey, here's this role. It's an important senior level role. We just want you to handle it exclusively. And then we would be the only search firm that's doing it. And that would be kind of an exclusive retainer. And so we would be like the only person representing the company on that. If it's a contingency search, that means they may give the search to me, they may give it to Maria, they'll give it to Susan, they'll give it to, Joanne, they'll give it to, a whole other bunch of folks, and they're all working on it. And the company is probably working on it themselves too.
John,
Jack, this is John Ravita. I actually put that question in, and the question was more focused towards companies hiring retainer-based employees. I'm a business development executive, and with the state of flux that companies are in these days, still trying to maneuver the post-pandemic. What are we going to be when we grow up in the new world? I was wondering if there's opportunities to go to companies or fulfill, they might post a job for a full-time partnership development officer, and it can be less expensive, it can be less risk, it can give them some quick flexibility to fill the position on a 6-month to 12-month retainer with a person like myself or a colleague.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I see what you're saying. It's not from the recruiter. You're talking about for yourself or anybody here to say, hey, as opposed to the traditional salary kind of relationship, permanent role, to come in as, long-term, midterm kind of contractor consultant. That's hugely popular now. It's for the reasons just you mentioned, that a lot of companies, because they don't know what to do. And to be fair, here's another thing. This branches out too. I think with a lot of companies, why you may not hear back when you send resumes, and you may not get interviews, you get ghosted. Think about this. Companies now, what they have to do, and I'm not a cheerleader for them, but I'm just, I like to look at things logically. So with companies, think about it. They now have to figure out their return to work program. You have a lot of people who just want to stay remote. They're probably kind of pushing people in to go back that don't want to. The consensus seems to be a hybrid, 2 or 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. So they're kind of figuring everything out. So when they're figuring this out, think about it. They're worried about how can we get people back in the office. They're worried about the people who are saying, I don't want to come back in the office. And maybe some of those are A+ players and we don't want to lose them because if we lose them, they're going to go to our competitor. So they're juggling a lot of balls. So when this is happening, they're also interviewing. So I suggest that a lot of times lately, why you're not getting as much feedback, you're not hearing back, is because these companies are just trying to figure out before they bring someone new in, how are we going to deal with all the people we already have? And then when you onboard people and you do onboard them remotely, it adds another level of kind of weirdness because you don't meet people face to face. There's not that connection. So it's still as you were saying, there's so much uncertainty. There's so much unknown. So yeah, I do see a lot more jobs are contract roles. It could be, 3 months, 6 months, whatever, because they feel that's a Band-Aid solution. Hey, if we're not sure what to do and we're still juggling this whole return to work, hey, if we can get somebody who could come in here, just do the job, no commitments, 3 months, 6 months, and then maybe if it does work out, we'll make them permanent. So that's definitely an option to take a look at. And I think that's going to happen more and more because it's not going to happen overnight. I don't think these companies are going to go, September, okay, everybody's back to work. We're done. This is easy. I think this is going to be kind of a moving target. I think a lot of companies may start hybrid and then change their mind and want everybody back in. Maybe some people didn't offer remote, but there's such a backlash, then they get more remote. So I could see this taking 3-6 months till companies figure out exactly what they're going to do. And because they're not going to be sure, that's going to impact a little bit of interviewing. So maybe take heart. So a lot of it could be too, not because you're doing anything wrong, not because you don't have the right resume, but because a lot of these companies are looking inwardly, how are we going to do these things? And until they figure it out, they're not rushing to get people in. So I find right now when they're hiring, it's really these absolutely critical needs to bring in. And so almost like, okay, everything I just said, but then this particular role, hey, we need someone right now because if we don't have it, we're in a whole lot of trouble. So
I agree, Jack. And you had mentioned 3-6 months.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be at least a year of what we're seeing as far as those contingent, short-term, gig work, freelance, however, you're going to stay a little bit longer than that. So expectations might have to change as well.
Exactly.
Search.
And maybe in a way that helps out your mindset too, because like knowing that, then you feel, oh, all right. It's not me. It's not, I did anything wrong. It's
and
not
it
my
isn't
resume.
You guys. It isn't. It always is about you, but it's not you.
it's just the structure of how it is.
Yes, I agree. You are absolutely right. All right. So we are at the end. If I can steal you for one last question, that would be very much appreciated. We do have a lot of people that are asking this particular question. I have a lot of experience from a long time ago, and I've done a few different jobs, and I really want to go back to what I used to do. So it's been 25 years since I've done this position. How do I put that on the resume? How do I, highlight it or tell people on a resume, let alone in an interview, that I'm ready to go back to that career, that industry?
I would just be straightforward. I'd kind of brush up on all that stuff you did in the past just to make sure when you interview, you're up on whatever current trends, whatever current developments. So when you have a conversation, you don't come across like with the interviewer say, well, that was, wow, we haven't done that in 10 years. So you would have really delve into that and make sure what's new, what's current, what's happening. Tap into people who are doing it to pick their brain, see what's happening, do research on it. Maybe even if you could do some side gig in that work, so you kind of get your feet wet in it. So this way, then when you interview, everything is fresh, everything is current, and you can kind of say, hey, yeah, I've done X, Y, Z. And I wouldn't even say, oh, I did in the past. I say, hey, I've done X, Y, Z. Here's what I did. Here's what I was involved with. And this is why I think I'm a great fit. And then let them ask you. And they go, oh, wait, well, I did that in the past. However, even though I did in the past, I did this for X amount of years. And over the last year or so, I've done this gig assignment, this work, et cetera. I've taken this, class, I have this certificate. So they're like, oh, all right, this person's serious about it. It's not just like, oh, hey, let me try this, that they've really put a lot of thought and effort into it.
Okay. I love that. All right. Well, we are out of time for today. There's a lot of stuff. I tried to go through that chat box and ask those questions. Some of them overlap, but Jack is a resource for you. He can be found on LinkedIn. Just look him up.
Mhm.
And he has a wonderful show that is full of great information, LinkedIn Live. And he also writes for Forbes, the magazine, the actual like huge magazine. Good for you. Really great article.
Excellent.
So
Well, thank you.
definitely check him out. There's a lot of wonderful information, and pick his brain and follow him. See if he can help you out. All
Well,
right.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I hope I
Thank
was
you.
helpful. And as Christine mentioned, feel free to hit me up if you have questions or want to chat or need a sounding board. I'd be glad to help.
All right. Very good. Well, I hope to see you next time. We're going to
Yes.
talk about personal branding.
Oh, excellent.
right.
Well, thank you
Very
so
good.
much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good day, everyone. Enjoy the sun while we have it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.